Okay, we're recording. Welcome everybody. This is a conference for the graduates of 2020 at AIU Atlantic International University. My name is Dr. Edward Lambert, and we have a few students with us today. This is the second conference because these students couldn't make it to the first conference. So we are going to have one today, and this is the time that most people could show up. So today the conference is basically going to be about developing the AIU pledge for the UNESCO goals and human rights. That's a part of the educational process at AIU. Now, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, I introduced myself, Dr. Edward Lambert, and let's just go around. If you see each other in clockwise formation, Karen, can you go first and introduce yourself? Give your name, the program that you were in, like whether it was a bachelor's, master's, or a doctorate, and the type and your major. You have to unmute your microphone. There.
Yes. Good morning all. I am Caroline Pierre Walk from Haiti. I am in the doctorate program in business and administration with a specialty in project management. And I'm very proud to study at AIU.
Can you say your major again? Did you say business administration?
Yes. And it's in project management.
In project management.
Yes.
Now, can you just say a few words about why you chose project management? Because it's kind of a new major. Why did you choose project management?
I chose it because I'm working on since more than 10 years, I can say. And it's very important for my career. And I chose it because I can say I'm involved in the area.
Yeah, to me, project management is a fascinating major. It's only like 20, 30 years old. Back in the 70s, project management didn't exist as a major. And so it's really come along as a very, very important major that a lot of people should really include in their courses. Okay, let's go to the next one. Shaban Sakaraya. Give your name the way you pronounce it. And your major.
Yeah, you're right. Hello. My name is Shaban Zakaria. In Swahili, we pronounce Zakaria.
Good to you.
Yeah, good. I started AIU and Masters in Engineering Management.
Engineering
I completed this February 20. Yes, Engineering Management. I'm from Tanzania, located in East Africa.
What was the focus of your studies in engineering management?
Yeah, the major focus was on the management aspect of what we call EPC projects, engineering, procurement, and construction. So I really got good information in terms of skills and knowledge for managing this type of contracts, engineering, procurement, and construction. It's like a turnkey project. So maybe we'll be in the same phase with Rock. He was doing project management. So there is no much difference, but for me, my focus was to look on the big picture now, on the turnkey project. So I want to be the lead on that area. So that's why I have to do this master's in engineering management. And it was a great opportunity because you helped me a lot, Dr. Lambert. I remember one time I contacted you via email. You sent me important documents for strategic management and the competitive advantage, if you remember this. That book was helpful for me because it's all about putting things together from entrepreneurial point of view, leadership, and the technology itself. So we put together these things and I get what I want. So it was very powerful and I really appreciate for this.
And this has been a big part of my work is finding really good books, textbooks and other books for free.
Yeah.
And so
perfect. I really appreciate it.
And then I'll get a lot of books and then I evaluate them to see which ones are the best, easiest to read, well-written questions and answers like a textbook. And so that's a big project I've had over the years is I've found thousands and thousands of books for free and really good books. So that's so important to have that resource because really in education, you have to find the information, whether it's videos, and it's all on the internet. Does anybody here use paper books anymore?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Yeah, I don't. I maybe have 6 paper books now. And on my computer, the one I'm using right now.
Thousands.
It's crazy. It's probably over 1,000.
Oh.
It's like you can have a whole library inside your computer.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on to the next one. Suham Elia Sarah.
Yes.
Did I say your name correctly?
Sorry?
Did I say your name correctly?
Suham, it's Suham, Siham, and sometimes we just call me Susie, so which is easier for everyone. That's my nickname. Yeah, so you said it correctly. It's okay. Yeah, actually I studied under the administration and business school. I studied a bachelor program in international relations. And I selected this program because actually I was like hesitated whether to study like political science or international relations. At the end, I made my decision to study international relations. And the good thing at AIU was that developing our curriculum, which I developed according to my need, according to my work that I'm doing. Actually, I have been working previously with with embassies in the diplomatic sectors, but for the last 5 years, I changed my career a bit to NGOs, which is somehow also the same thing somehow, and I'm working on the projects in an NGO under advocacy sector, and I'm in charge of the projects of the advocacy sector in the NGO here in Duhok City.
Can you explain what advocacy is, the Advocacy Center?
Advocacy, it's advocacy on minority rights, actually. We are specifying on minority rights. And so we are doing different kind of projects that aim to build capacity of people, introducing them to human rights, focusing on minority rights that we are doing among minorities and majorities of Iraq. As this is concept, it's a new concept actually, since 2003. It is too much needed in Iraq due to the conflict that minorities are suffering from, because they are the most affected weak people, and they are suffering of the conflict, and they are immigrating. So I myself, I'm a person of minority. I belong to the Assyrian minority. So Assyrian is my first mother tongue. Then Arabic is my second language. Then I learned English at school. So Actually, I consider myself as a multicultural person because I was living in Iraq till 2005. After the violence that went on, unfortunately, in the country, I moved to Czech Republic, and Czech Republic is my second country where I got the citizenship there. And actually, I returned back to Iraq when the situation was stable. We thought it's stable in 2014, but suddenly the crisis happened again. The ISIS invaded many areas of the minorities in the Nineveh Plain in Mosul. So it pushed me again to go and work for those people.
You know, one thing we learn in life is that everybody is a story. Everybody has a story.
Exactly.
You're born, you live your story, and then you go, right? So yeah, your story has traveled many roads in this world. Fascinating story. But maybe someday you'll write your story in a book.
Yes, so many things, so many interesting things actually to be written.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I have traveled a lot actually because my parents, my family live in Australia.
Wow.
My first cousins, really the situation.
He's covering all the continents here, I think.
Yes, yes. The situation for us was a disaster because it was a time that we couldn't stay in our homeland. We had to flee because of the situation. So it's like everyone went to different country. And it's very hard to gather in one occasion, all of us together, because we are five sisters and brothers. It's very hard for us to be at the same time for Christmas, for example, or for any other occasions. So this is the situation, unfortunately, for many. Even I don't exclude the majorities because they have been going through the conflict themselves due to the sectarian conflict or war, let's say. But we hope that one day the peace will be implemented in this country.
War.
Yeah.
War.
Yeah.
Yes. There are reasons for war, and there are reasons to stop war. It's a cycle.
It is.
Okay, Dr. Otkocha Chiebre Peters, can you talk? We can't hear you. Can you write your story in the chat? And write your story in chat. And then we can read your story. What's your major? At AIU. Atlantic International University. Now, Mike Arthur, I don't hear Mike Arthur. We can.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, great, we can hear you.
Yes.
Where are you?
Should I go ahead?
What's that?
Should I go ahead?
Yes, go ahead. State your name, your program, and I'll ask you a question or two.
Okay, good afternoon to everyone. I am Michael Arthur. I am living in St. Lucia from the Caribbean, and it's very hot down here. As you can see, sorry about that, but it is very hot, very hot. Right. I'm from the School of Science and Engineering. My major is agricultural science. Yeah.
Say that again. What's your major?
Agricultural science. Agri-science.
Agricultural science. Did I say that?
That's correct.
What did you focus on in agriculture? What type of agriculture?
Well, I did both plants and livestock, animal and plants. I did everything.
I know my first major was in entomology, the study of insects. in the School of Tropical
yes.
Agriculture in Hawaii. And so my specialty was honeybees. I'm a beekeeper.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm looking to pursue my master's maybe in September, and my major will be livestock, just livestock. More so chickens or pigs, because in the Caribbean we do a lot of farming. Farming is very prevalent in the Caribbean.
So do you work with small
The
farmers?
in the Caribbean, well, small and large, but many small farmers. They have many small farmers. More subsistence. People farm to help themselves and the family, and they will sell the extras just to make some money.
Do you know any beekeepers?
Yes, yes. Actually, I have a friend. He has he has bees. He sells honey. He harvests honey and so on. Yes, I know a beekeeper very well.
Yeah.
In the Caribbean, the honey is a very good thing in the Caribbean, and it's very expensive. We have a few farmers. What they do is that most persons who live in the rural area, they have bees, but not in a very large quantity because bee can be dangerous if you don't understand it. So they have the little hive and they harvest the honey and they sell the honey.
Yeah, you have to make sure the bees are far away from everybody.
Yes,
And
yes, that's correct.
sometimes on a Caribbean island, it's hard to keep bees away from people because people are like everywhere.
Yes, and the islands are this big,
Yeah.
very small. So yeah.
Well, I did beekeeping in Hawaii on the Big Island, and there was this little section of the Big
Okay.
Island that had a kiawe tree forest, and it produced one of the exotic honeys, one of the most exotic honeys of the world.
Okay.
But
All right.
it was fun. Go there, work on the bees. During lunchtime, you sit underneath the mango trees, eating all the mangoes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, in agriculture, I worked with soybeans. I worked with corn. I was a laborer. When I was young, I would do labor. I would go out into the fields and take out the weeds and detassel the corn.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we all have our stories.
That's so true.
Now, Dr. Wokocha, my program training is Master of Science degree in Public Health. What is your focus in your degree in Public Health? What was your focus? What is your main interest in public health? Everybody has a different major except Karen and Susie. Business administration.
Yeah.
Me, I've done everything from agriculture to accounting, cooperative development, economics. Economics is my doctorate now. I have a new theory. I have a new theory for effective demand. When Maynard Keynes, the economist, talked about what's called effective demand, but no one ever really found an equation for it. So I have a theory on what that equation is.
Oh, perfect.
I've also worked with Chinese medicine, to where I took Chinese medicine and developed it into a three-dimensional model to understand how different parts of the body work together. Very advanced, and I was given an honorary doctorate for that.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and nobody knows about it because it's so advanced that they can't fit it into the schools.
Okay.
So it's taking all of the theories, the separate theories in acupuncture and Chinese medicine, and I was able to combine them all into a three-dimensional relationship model. Absolutely perfect. So I was from a school in Beijing, China. I was giving a doctorate for that. But now I teach. I help students learn and study. So here, my focus areas were biostatistics and epidemiology. Ooh, I found some really good books for the students in biostatistics and epidemiology. It's so important in public health to do research. To be able to really be able to discern where the health problem is and how strong it is and what we can do about it. So biostatistics and epidemiology is so important. Obviously nowadays with the pandemic and all. And where are you from? Dr. Wonkocha, where are you from? We can't hear you though. I know you want to talk, but we can't hear you. Nigeria. My research was on studying the perception, prevalence, and practice of substance abuse among secondary school students in Umuahia, Abia State, Nigeria. Substance abuse. That's just become a worldwide problem among the young. All these new drugs coming out. Yeah, another degree I have is in social work.
Wow.
I worked with prisoners. I worked with prisoners in prison. I worked with the elderly. I did research in that too. And Dr. Wonkocha says, I am from Imo State, Nigeria, and I live and work in Umuahia. Umuahia, I say it like Hawaiian, but I don't know if that's how you say it in Nigeria. Umuahia is like you say it in Hawaii. Umuahia. But I don't know how you say it in Nigeria. That's how we say it in Hawaiian. Aloha. Everybody can say hello. If you have a different language, you can say hello in your different language.
Hi.
Susie's gonna have like 5 different languages.
I was about to say like a word from each language. So
I speak English and Spanish, that's it.
yo hablo español un poco, no mucho, porque la mayoría está mala.
And Karen Kibrak, do you speak French?
Yes, I speak French.
Does anybody else here speak French?
Yeah, only greetings.
Bonjour, merci beaucoup.
Bonjour.
But I can understand a little French, but I can't speak it. Okay, so everybody has different majors. We're going to move on with the program here. Engineering, business, agriculture, public health. But in AIU, we also focus on human rights and these UNESCO goals for a sustainable world. Wait, Mike Arthur says, just a date and time check. The ceremony, graduation ceremony is on Tuesday. Let me test out something here. Can you see this on the screen?
Yes.
This is how many days and hours it is to the virtual graduation ceremony. I'm not
2
sure.
days, hours, 50 minutes, and the seconds are going down.
So you just have to figure out what time you are right now and figure out 2 days and then 6 hours more, which is going to be
Yeah.
very late for a lot of you. Some of you, this is going to be past midnight, I think.
Mm. This is-
Okay. Okay. So you have these majors from business, science, engineering, agriculture, public health. But why are human rights and these UNESCO goals so important? Why does AIU incorporate these into the education? Well, because as a people of the world, this is where we all need to work together. So we all need to study what is going on in this world. Why isn't it sustainable? Why are there illnesses? Why is there poverty and hunger? And why is there sickness? And what's causing all these things? And so there's certain areas in the world that we need to focus on. Public health, right? We need to study, one of the goals is good health, clean water. So we have public health. And then there's decent work and economic growth, responsible consumption and production. So our majors from business administration can see those, that these are issues that we need to understand to do better business in the future, or to understand health and to do better public health in the future. Agriculture, right? One of the goals of UNESCO is zero hunger. But you also need to have economic growth and sustainable production. So then we come in, we have a major here from agricultural science, can focus in on that goal and actually help businesses be sustainable so they can produce food in a sustainable, affordable way for people. And then engineering management from Zakaria. Engineering management.
Yes, sir.
Engineering management. Infrastructure, innovation, sustainable cities, sustainable communities, affordable energy,
Exactly.
climate action. This goes right into the science of that major. And so there's knowledge that brings us all together. This is the point. Is
Sure.
that the UNESCO goals form a vision for the future. And no matter what our major is, we can find a way to fit into those as a global community. So it gives your major, your focus of study and your work direction. How can you work not just in your job, but in a way that actually makes the world sustainable? What projects can you do? When you work with substance abuse, like Dr. Wokocha, substance abuse, mental health, the health of the young, the future generations, getting them out of drugs, getting them into a life to find work and quality education. He's doing it. And Susie, you were working with advocacy.
Yes.
So you're in advocacy. You're speaking on behalf of somebody. Somebody doesn't have a voice, so you're helping them express their voice.
Exactly.
And so you're being inclusive. You're including people that are kind of marginalized from society. Inclusivity is a big, big part of the future. Getting everybody in the community, in the economy, in the politics, in the legal system, sharing the wealth. These are long, long problems that have existed in the world, around the world for thousands and thousands of years. Some cultures have done a better job in creating a good life, and some cultures have done a not so good of a job in creating a good life. But the idea is that we learn together that there's this common goal or common goals that bring us together. So whatever we're studying, there's something that we have in common, making the world sustainable so that everybody can live a better story. Let's put it that way. Because everybody has their story. I mean, even a child that is born in a very, very poor part of the world and within maybe 3 months dies because there's not enough food, there's a story there. And that little child will take that story when its soul leaves the body and goes on. It's taking its story. There's a story there. So we would want a child like that to actually have more of a story, to live a little bit longer, to actually know and actually talk with his or her mother, brothers or sisters, get to learn a few more things, kind of maybe, you know, enjoy more sunsets, enjoy some sunrises. So even a child that only lives 3 months has a story, and that's precious. But there's more we can offer. The earth has more to offer everybody. So we want to make it inclusive so that people aren't dying so early, better health, better resources, more food, and working together. And this is all part of the UNESCO goals, is that as trained professionals, we want the world to be a better place. It would be so nice just to have peace, growing food, having everything clean water, but it's going to take some work. It's always going to take some work because there's these economic pressures for economic growth. But if that economic growth isn't sustainable, we're going to have problems. Illnesses will pop up. Drug abuse among the youth will pop up because they can't find a job, or they don't know what to do with their life, or they don't feel like they're getting a quality education. They're not moving forward, and they fall into like, hey, I'm young, I have power, my body is strong, I need to do something. I've got all these hormones racing through me, and I'm getting frustrated with this world, and my dopamine in my brain needs to be stimulated somehow because the world's not making me happy. The world's not motivating me. And so they turn to drugs, and all of a sudden the drugs will produce this dopamine in their brains, so they're happy. They feel a sense of power. They feel a sense of being alive. But then the drug goes away and they crash. And then maybe they'll have some health problems, but at least they can turn back to that drug and feel cool and powerful. Because the world is not giving them what they need to make their brain produce dopamine or even oxytocin, which is even better. When the community is solid, when there's peace and people trust each other and there's decent work and there's food and there's jobs, the brain produces oxytocin, which is what a mother produces when she puts that newborn baby on her breast and the baby begins to drink milk. The brain produces oxytocin. It's that pure bonding love. And that's the key. That's what society is missing. Society is not producing oxytocin in the brains of people. So people are searching for the dopamine stimulants, addictions here, drug abuse there, bullying in schools. They're trying to get the sense of power through dopamine, which is not a healthy way to have society. We need to produce a society where people are going to be producing oxytocin in their brains. People trust each other. People help each other. People walk down the street and they feel comfortable. They feel part of the community. They feel like there's somebody there to help them, or they feel like there's somebody there to talk to share their life with, to share their stories. And then when communities come together like that, life becomes sustainable, and people start producing oxytocin in the brains. The stress level goes down, the heart beats a little better, blood pressure goes down, people relax, and they live longer, healthier lives. So this is what we're after. We all have our parts in the story, this grand story of really maturing as a world. We all have our parts. Whether it's engineering management, business administration, project management, advocacy, public health, substance abuse with the young, agricultural science, cows, chickens, producing food. It's all part of a good society where people are going to start producing oxytocin in the brain and be happy and relaxed and sit down at the end of the day and go, you know, the world really is beautiful, and I really like my community, and I'm relaxed. I feel secure. I feel like people understand me, and I understand everybody else, and there's no conflicts, and we're working things out. We're working for each other, and everybody's producing something, and some people can't produce, and we'll help those people out. But it's like everybody has their place. And that's the world that we're shooting for as a global community. Very, very tricky. It may take generations. Well, it is going to take generations, right? It's not going to happen in our lifetime. We're not going to see a perfect world where there's peace and everybody understands each other and people are working together and sharing and producing and trading and being understood. It's not going to happen right away. There's still too much low consciousness, we could put it that way. A lot of people not really seeing the spirit in people. There's too much low consciousness. So that's why we incorporate these UNESCO goals from the United Nations. That's why we incorporate human rights, because that raises the consciousness. And then as the students realize that these are important and they study them, then they teach others. They share that knowledge and then they work on it through their work. And then that makes the world a better place from generation to generation. You know, there's so much bad blood in the past. So much bad blood. Do you know what I mean by bad blood? Do you know what I mean by bad blood? Just conflicts, crazy things in the past of all kinds of problems. Greed, businesses, colonization, religious persecution, racism, classism. The history of the world is full of bad blood, of low consciousness. But now we got to look towards the future and say, hey, no. The future is going to be different. Let's build it. Sometimes I think the world is like a house that needs remodeling. You know, it's kind of falling apart. The doors are kind of creaking. You walk on the floors and they kind of creak and you don't know if they're going to like fall in. You walk up some stairs and you don't know if the boards are going to break and you're going to fall down the stairs. It's an old house and it's not working. You know, we need to remodel this thing and fix the house back up. But as we fix the world, as we remodel this house, we need to do it with wisdom and be inclusive. We need to include everybody in how we rebuild this house. And we need to have reason. We need to have a good way of thinking to analyze something and say, okay, this is how we need to do it. And build into the structure of our institutions equality. One of the courses I taught here at AIU was how to write the bylaws of a cooperative. And when you write the bylaws of a cooperative, it's the difference between a cooperative that's going to fail and a cooperative that's going to succeed, just in writing the bylaws, because you're structuring how you're going to distribute money. You're structuring who has the voice and how they can share their voice in the cooperative. You're structuring the procedures of how people are going to benefit. You're going to, from the cooperative, and you're also going to structure how people can work and improve in the cooperative. You can also structure if you're going to save money for education. All that is written into the bylaws, the complete structure of how you're going to formulate this cooperative, so that the members of the cooperative have all the rights, powers to share in the abundance and the productivity of the cooperative. So it's a legal document, the bylaws. And so as we move forward, we may say, okay, it's wonderful, you know, climate action, quality education, public health. But how are we going to write the laws? How are we going to code the cultural laws in our communities to structure the correct changes? And that's where we're headed. We learn, we study, we understand the issues, and then we learn how to apply the issues by developing a structure and a system by which these things can be sustainable. Now at this point, I'm going to switch to can you see this? I'm trying to see you all. Okay, I can see you all. So here, this is the AIU Graduation Conference. This is really why we're meeting. We're talking about our stories, we're talking about our education, we're introducing each other, we're getting to know each other. But this conference is really going to be about these UNESCO goals. What are they? What brings us together? And how can we, as you graduate, how can you take these goals with you and work on them in your future work? And as you look through this list of these goals, you're going to see all of the problems that exist in the world. Maybe not all of them, but you know, even substance abuse is in goal number 3, good health and well-being. But even substance abuse will be in goal number 8, decent work and economic growth, right? Because if the young don't have good, decent work, they just turn to drugs. Let's see, youth with substance abuse. Let's go to goal number 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. If there isn't justice in the world and there's not strong institutions with good structure, the youth can just go right on into drugs. So there's different goals that will help the youth get out of drugs. Sometimes it's just poverty and hunger and health, education, work, and justice. And sometimes it's other things too. But you can see in the problems that we see in these goals. And around the world, men and women, gender equality. That's huge. That's a huge issue. There are certain countries where the women are simply just, they don't really have a powerful voice, but that voice is just wanting to express within themselves, but within their culture, they're not able to yet. And they're really frustrated inside. I think of places like India, where my friends tell me that the women in India are just, they want to scream. But if they scream, no one will listen. And if they just try to talk, they can't really express themselves. So there's certain parts of India where the women are really, really frustrated and they don't know what to do. And you can go around to other, I think, Karen, where are you from? You're from Santa Lucia? Or was that Mike? Oh no, you're from Haiti. Sorry, Haiti. And in Haiti, that was, are the women free there? Can you hear? Are the women free in Haiti?
Yes, yes. Yes, as you see, I from Haiti, and I'm working at an NGO. It's why I said later I am involved in the project management. But especially for me, I can say I could adopt the number 11, sustainable cities and communities, because I'm working for a long time with communities. Uh, I can say the where we find poverty and violence. I'm working with them, and I see the number 11 is converse, because it takes in account good health, education, access to basic services, and universal values like global solidarity, inclusion, anti-discrimination, gender equality, accountability, I can say cultural diversity, communication, information. It's very transverse when we add up the number 11. But specifically, I can say the report to the number 6, clean water and sanitation, because this service is also transverse. It can help us when we work in water and sanitation. We are able to bring together communities regarding regardless the social and political affiliation, regardless of the relation and their family. We can put them together to work around the development, a sustainable community and city. And I say the 6 and 11. I engage to work with communities to make them sustainable, to make them responsible of their own development. And also, at the same time, we work on peace, justice, human rights, education, gender equality. I see, for me, the number 6 and 11 are very transverse for all the goals.
Let's start to go through. Let's start to go through these. Number 1, no poverty. Just raise your hand if you want to talk. What do you want to say anything about this?
The number 1 is why I say the number 6 and 11 are transverse, because I live in a poverty community and I work with the poorest communities. The poorest, where we can say they don't have access to basic services. We can say the health problem, economic, and poverty, extreme poverty. It's why I make accent to the 11 number sustainable cities and community, And when we engage the communities in their own development, they can reduce the poverty.
Yeah, I don't know how many of you understand the history of Haiti, where Karen is from. They really had to pull themselves out of a big crisis in the last 20, 30 years. The United Nations had to go in and kind of hold the peace. Things were really falling apart fast. And a lot of damage was done. And so Haiti had to really rebuild itself. And it's still in the process of rebuilding itself, and it's going to take some time. But as long as they can maintain the peace, they'll be able to rebuild. And Karen's in that whole process of rebuilding the communities so they can be sustainable. Big project. But it takes more and more people to work on that, to focus in on, no poverty, a sustainable community. So, anybody else want to say anything about poverty? No. Zero hunger. Does anybody want to say anything about hunger? I can't see. If Dr. Wonkocha writes something in chat, can you read it for me? Because I can't read chat at the moment. So I'm looking at the screen here. Suham, do you have something to say?
Actually, in Iraq, luckily we don't have this problem. Like, I mean, the hunger or the poverty, because it's quite a rich country that people are not suffering of this problem. But the problem is a political issue. Actually, the consistent government that's leading since 2003 has led to a big corruption in the country, and people could live even in better condition. But due to the corruption that's ongoing, that's why the people demonstrated since last October. People were demonstrating against the corrupted government because they wanted to see peaceful life and better life in Iraq. So anyway, people could live better, but we still find in some communities they are suffering of poverty, like a small percentage, let's say. People here are helping each other. People would give to each other. Rich people would help poor people in this community. And also there is like the volunteerism concept. It's all over the country, and people would help in that. It's really a very good concept that brings blessing to the human life.
Anybody else? I think Dr.
That's what I
Wokocha
wanted to say.
is writing. Does anybody see in chat? Can anybody see a message written in chat? I can't see anything. Oh wait, maybe I can. Unless something is done about political systems, and especially the third world countries, it will be very difficult to deal with poverty.
Well, in the Caribbean, the poverty right now is a very serious thing. Poverty and hunger is very serious because, in a sense that, given the fact right now that we have the corona pandemic, the food basically is short because we rely on food mainly from the US, UK, and so on. So most of our foods they come from overseas. However, some farmers try to produce to help out the market, but it's not enough. It's not enough because there have been low shipment, they have been reduced in quantity, and so on. So right now the hunger is very serious. Sometimes and because of that, the cost of goods basically went up because of course, when demand high, supply will increase. So right now in the Caribbean, the poverty and the hunger is very, very serious. However, people are trying to survive basically on I would say a day-to-day basis, but it's not easy. It's not easy. That's why I think agricultural science is one of the main thing right now. You grow more, you plant food, you have a little kitchen garden, you sustain yourself and so on. Because if you were doing that initially, right now, you have to be looking and begging and trying to get food. It would have been somewhat decreased. So I think that everybody should have a kitchen garden or a little farm so they can sustain themselves and their family.
Mike, I want to ask you a trick question. Do you know what a trick question is?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Are there too many people where you live?
No, actually, where I live, we have 122,000 people. It's a very small island.
So why is there not enough food?
Like I said, they depend mainly on export. Okay, in St. Lucia, they rely on bananas. We grow bananas here and tourism. So it's banana, the green gold of the Caribbean, bananas and tourism. So right now, the tourists are not coming because like I said, the coronavirus. So all the hotel industries shut down. The bananas, they export bananas.
Export.
And basically, yes, and people hardly right now, the country's hardly importing bananas because, like I said, you understand, the travel restriction. So we import almost everything else from meat right down. However, there are farmers, but there are not enough farmers. There are not enough farmers.
And so you need more
the
land.
thing is, there is land, but you see, okay, the thing is, we have the rural area where the farmers live, and we have the urban area, like the town. So in the city, that's where everybody lives, and people basically they want to just buy and buy and buy. So the land they have, they just leave it as is. They don't do any kind of planting in the city. However, the farmers now in the rural area, they try and plant and so on. They grow they rear livestock and they grow the crops. You understand? So what you find now, based on what happened, they try to keep what they have for themselves and their family. Instead of selling everything, you understand, they try to keep what they have. So what they grow, they keep for themselves.
See, this was like in the Philippines, they had a program to give people farms. But they gave them like 1 hectare of land to do a farm. They thought, okay, everybody will get 1 hectare. Sounds like a good number. We'll give them 1 hectare of land to grow some food and some animals. But as it turned out, 1 hectare was not enough land to even break even for a business. For a business, you need to have maybe 5 hectares. And so what ended up happening is that the farmers went out of business because they didn't have enough land to produce enough income for their families. So they ended up selling all their 1 hectares back to the big corporations, and the program failed. So the key, no one in the beginning did a good calculation to say how much land is needed to have a sustainable farm. So let me ask you, Mike, how much land does a farmer need to be sustainable as a business? How many hectares or acres?
Well, an hectare is basically 2 point something acres. So really truly it's based on what you are farming. Let's say you are doing maybe lettuce or cucumber or watermelon or so on. 1 acre to me is good enough. It's good enough. However, if you want to export or to feed a lot of people, then you'll need more land than that. You understand? Because it's not, I mean, it sounds like a big patch of land, but based on what you plant on the land, based on how you utilize the land, an hectare could be a lot or a little, based on what you farm on the land.
So if it's a little, your income is still going to keep you in poverty, right?
Exactly.
So even though you're staying in business year after year, you're living in poverty. So it would be good to actually have more land. It's more efficient.
Right, because you might just break even or make a small profit, which is not enough.
So this comes into planning and development, and like Karen is saying here, to having a sustainable community, that's one thing you have to take into consideration is What's going on with the farmers? How come they're living in poverty? Well, maybe it's because they need more land, or they need some subsidies to help them with machinery, or develop some infrastructure, or develop some cooperatives so that they can share costs. There's all kinds of options to solve a problem like that. Dr. Loncocha wrote, unless something is done about the political systems and especially the third world countries, it will be very difficult to deal with poverty. Okay, talking about inequalities, when the rulers of various nations and states continue to come from a particular region because of a cultic system of electing leaders, and they do not care about the general good of the people, inequalities and poverty and underdevelopment cannot be stopped. So true. Experience from around the world has proven that to be the case. So it's because of a cultic system of electing leaders. So you're not getting the best leaders who understand society with a heart to really guide society and take care of the people. It's like that's going to be part of goal number 16, institutions. That includes the election process. So many things. Let's go on to the next one. Good health and well-being. Does anybody want to say anything about this? Shall we move on? Oh.
I would say something. Yeah, I would say something. Actually, our NGO is working, one of the sectors of our NGO is working on this part. It's the health sector, which is has been helping the governmental institutions to build their capacity and to provide them sometimes with some equipments as the country was going through the crisis since 2014. But this hasn't been for so long time. Let's say for the last year, the NGOs stopped supporting this work because they said like the country is not under the emergency need. So this is a government work. The government should take care of this sector, the big sector, but the NGOs has done very good job. I mean, since 2014, for almost like 4 years, working for Iraq, helping them to build the health institutions.
Anybody else? Okay.
I can add something to say now. We can see with the pandemic situation, we can see the need, importance, because with COVID-19, our life is changing. We have another world with before and after COVID-19. We can see the importance of good health and well-being.
What's life going to be like in 2 more years?
It's another world.
Quality education. Anybody want to say something about this? This is an important one.
It's very important.
Ideas, thoughts?
I can say when we talk about sustainable action, there is one of the aspects we have to make attention to work with a generation and to have the long-term action, the long-term result. Education is the main action we can do on a generation to make sustainable and the other generation. It's what I can see.
education should be easier. Zakaria?
Yeah, well, I think for me, everything begins with education. You cannot have those sustainable cities if people are not well educated, how to handle them, how to build them. Uh, Even if we are talking about peace, everything starts with education. People, they learn, they understand each other, they know the value of living, friendship, humanity. So for me, I see education is it's like holding everything that we are discussing when it comes to these UNESCO goals. So it's very important. We cannot run out of it. And the way I see from primary education, secondary education, up to tertiary levels, exactly quality education. The word quality speaks a lot because some curriculums need to be developed in a unique way that can suit the environment for that particular area or country. Example, for developing countries, we need to define exactly what we need from based on the environment that we have. We can learn and understand and come up with something that is significant within our communities and the country as a whole. Example, at the beginning, we are talking with you, Dr. Lambert. You said you did one research with health, with acupuncture, something with Chinese, and you came up with something, you say, brilliant. Those are the things that we need in our countries, especially we in the developing countries. So quality education is a powerful one. We need to be specific, and we need to teach our children, even adults, in all ages. One need to specialize and focus and come up with something that can make him understand the situation is. Because education for me counts for all of that we are having in our lives. So when it comes to engineering also, we need to think things that can advance in the humanity. So all this is education. So education, we cannot go far from it. So we need to give priority in all ages as far as human race is concerned. Thank you.
Let's continue on. Gender equality. Suham, you didn't have a chance to speak on this before. Is there anything you want to say?
Actually, this is very important issue that we adopt in our work. So we emphasize this thing in our community, especially in some areas that rural areas that they are really suffering from this thing. Like there is no equality for like women. Many women have no right to speak up and or to work or to be equal to men. So this is really an issue in many areas in our community. Talking actually in Iraq, there are like different communities living in Iraq. So like each community has, it's like the ruling thing is the habits or the habits of the families or the what's called the society, their society or their community or their tribal ideas are like enforcing some things on the women that they are not able to do. But through like NGOs, it has been like developing many things regarding this, like they showed the women that they have some rights. So women are able now, they are feeling like they are enable, the NGOs enable them to know their rights and to work according to that and to speak up, to demand for their rights. So this is something that I can see in my country.
This is a very deep and complicated issue. Because when you look through the history, you see women being enslaved. And so there were cultures protecting the women. You know, don't show yourself, stay inside. Because there was a slave trade for women. And so when you talk about a sustainable world, sometimes you have to structure the laws, the cultural laws, in such a way to say, we have to shut down women. We have to protect them. They have to stay inside. They can't show themselves. We have to protect them. That's the only sustainable answer that we can get right now. You have to go back thousands of years and see the roots of that. And even now, there's human trafficking of women from all around the world. And so in some sense, there's still this reason to try and protect women because they're being taken or they're being seduced to be part of this human trafficking trade. And so there's that other side of it to say, you know, we need to protect women. But then there's this other side of it too. It's like, hey, we have to include women in the economy because they have so much to offer. So you have to take that risk to allow the women freedom, whereas something in the cultural background says, but they're vulnerable, they're in danger, the women are in danger, we have to protect them. Psychologically and socially and mentally, that history of the world makes it a very complicated issue. But at some point in time, we got to keep pushing towards that, fixing all of these problems so that we can restructure the cultures so that women can truly be free and protected. So, you know, a woman has to be able to feel safe walking the streets at night. You know what I mean? I've lived in so many places and different universities and different places where the women can't walk safe at night. It's crazy. You know, they just have to walk from their job to their car and then go home. But in that period of time of walking between the building to their car, they're in danger. And so there's certain people that says, you know, we just have to keep women in the house and protect them because the people are trying to prey on them. And so that kind of shuts down women, but it's not the women's fault. It's not the women's fault. It's crazy. So there has to be a way of protecting women and allowing them to be free at the same time. So it's going to take some restructuring of culture.
Actually, I want to add one point. Like during the ISIS invasion to Sinjar region in Iraq in 2014, 3,000 women were taken as sex slaves by the militants of the ISIS. And until now, actually, there were about 5,000. Many of them succeeded to run or to be brought back. Another 3,000 are in the hands of ISIS. Nobody knows their destiny. And this is another thing, like this is a minority women under the violence. And this is even more troubles, like they were taken because of the mentality of the ISIS saying that those Yazidis, because it's the very Yazidi community, they are infidels and we have the right to take these women. So imagine this kind of extremist mentality that exists in Nigeria as well, or other countries that happen, they have the same crisis. So this is another issue as well.
Deep, complicating issues.
Exactly.
A lot of work to be done here. Okay, clean water and sanitation. Any thoughts, comments? Something as simple as water. Just the rain falling through the sky and having clean water to drink. Why is it a complicated issue?
We need to save the water in our planet. Actually, we don't take care of this point, which is very important, because after many years we will be in a crisis if we will not save the resources of water. So this is an important issue that we have to be careful of, to have a sustainable resource of water.
Yeah, Dr. Wonkocha writes, there's a strong connection between goal 3, which is health, and goals 1, 2, and 4, poverty, hunger, and education. When these 3 are not in place, the individual suffers serious health challenges. And then we're going to bring that thought here into clean water and sanitation, because that is kind of the basis a lot of times of health. You know, there's so many places you can go in this world and the children are dying of diarrhea because of bad water. I remember down in Bolivia, I had a friend that was working down in Bolivia with health concerns in Bolivia. And they'd had to mix together a certain quantity of salt and a certain quality of sugar to create this solution, and then the child could recover from diarrhea. But you have to have a little bit of salt and more sugar. I think it's like 1 teaspoon salt to 8 teaspoons sugar. And that concentration, that proportion of concentrations in the water will actually help the child recover. But they told me a story that one of the people working down there mixed them up and put in 1 teaspoon of sugar and 8 teaspoons of salt. They had them mixed up. So there was way more salt than sugar. And children died because the salt, too much salt, worsened the diarrhea. And this is just one of those cases where, you know, it's like you have to have all of your eggs in an order. You know, you have to have everything perfect and really think these things through, because little details like that can mean the life of somebody. And it's not like anybody's really guilty. It's just that, you know, they didn't think it through. And, you know, this is going to, then you think about 3,000 women being taken away as slaves, sex slaves. And what's that all about? And you compare it to just, you know, mixing up salt and sugar and some children die. These little things, and then you got this huge problem. And it's like there's so much out there in this world to fix.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's something as simple as clean water.
Actually, I was just comparing, like, in some areas they have lack of water. They don't have clean water and sanitation, for example. But in Iraq, we have it, but many people are wasting the water. So this is really like a sarcastic thing. Like many people are suffering of this. On the other hand, other people are not taking care of the clean water, and they are not appreciating that.
I can add something, Dr. Lambert. I think it's a big issue around the world, and in particular in Haiti, especially for the vulnerable group, like children and older person. They don't have access, and there is a problem of quality, access, quality, the price, and affordability. It's a very big problem that the government has to think. I had a long experience in the poorest community to work with on the water management. When we construct a kiosk, and generally children and women are the group, the most vulnerable group. They have to bring water to home, and they abuse them when they have to go to the kiosk. It's a source of conflict. It's exactly a problem for justice, peace, and I can say the human right. It's a big issue in the community. When we work in a community or city to make it sustainable, absolutely we have to I can say to involve in the water management, water and sanitation management, because as I said, you can put together all the groups in the communities, all the tendencies like religion, like the political and social aspects of a group. You can put them together and to discuss about all the problems in the community. It's a really a big aspect we have to think about when we work on the sustainable communities.
Move on. Affordable and clean energy. What do you think? And Dr. Wonkocha, I'm looking at chat. If you write something, I will see it. I have the chat open. Is this just a good idea for the future? Or is there something deeper here?
It's basic for the green economy now. It's for the future. If we want to construct a sustainable community, it's very important.
You know, sometimes I think about the power of gasoline. That you can have this huge bus, you can have a huge bus and put in 50 people in the bus and drive it up a mountain. The power in that gasoline to move this huge vehicle with 50 people up a mountain is just incredible. And there's going to come a day when we don't have any more gasoline. What are we going to do? How's the world going to function?
We have the sun.
Yeah. Can we do it? Is it possible?
Actually, they said like this kind of instruments cost a lot of money, but I mean, if the states, if the governments would work on that, that would be, I think, easy, like to save money for the future, like not to spend it on other resources and spend it on these instruments. And you have the sun then, so the sun is for free. But this system, I think, would cost money. I have no idea how it works. Maybe the engineers can talk about that.
Yeah, I'm looking for Zachariah. Do you see Zachariah here? Oh, yeah.
Yes, I'm back.
There you are.
Yes, I'm back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good to have your input on this.
affordable and clean energy. This is really good for the future. For now, example in our country, Tanzania, because Tanzania is huge, about 840 kilometers. So it's a big country. To electrify this is also a huge job from the grid, hydro system, and gas, because we have these sources of power energy. But when it comes to areas that we cannot find a grid connection, we have an agency called the Rural Energy Agency. Now it's deploying solar systems to villages that cannot be connected to the grid. So it is helping a lot. We are electrifying villages. People are getting happy because of the solar solutions. With the government subsidies, it's cheaper. As Suham said, the initial cost, if you have to go it alone, is somehow expensive. There is one case I tried to connect it to my house in Dar es Salaam, the capital city. I was told around 50 million Tanzanian shillings is like 20, almost 25,000 USD to electrify my house using solar system. So when you look for developing country, this is also a huge amount of money. So for initial cost is difficult, but for the governments, especially in our country, they are subsidizing and they're prioritizing to villages that cannot have grid connection. When I say grid connection, we have the main power source from the hydro plants and the gas plants. They are all connected to make a grid system in our country. So there are some parts or regions that are far from the grid connection and it's still expensive to do it. So they deploy these solar system solutions. So this is affordable, and we see when it's government taking into consideration, it becomes affordable and reasonable. So we can count on it because sun is available in our country. As I was saying, the temperature is normal, almost sunny days. So we can get good energy from solar, so we don't have a problem. Just initial investment, that's the problem comes. You do it once and for all. So we count on this technology and yeah, so affordable and clean because it does not pollute the environment. No need of oil or fuel to run the generators. Well, generators, when you power it on, it emits these CO2 gases also. But with solar, it's perfect. Just to make it more affordable. The affordable part, that is why the technical challenge for this solution. But it's a really, really good solution. So we need to abide on it. We take it. And it will really help the future. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, it seems like it would be easy to build a windmill, one of those wind-powered generators. It's like if you just had some wood or some concrete or something, plastic, mold it into the shape of those blades and create a windmill. Seems like if someone had the materials to mold, they could make them. But I guess it's more, you know, you have to really get into the science of the technology to produce that into what type, you know, alternating current or direct current. So it seems like there's ways to do it very cheaply. If you can just carve wood from a tree to make those. But, you know, like Susie was saying, you know, you need the air conditioning. You have to take that heat of the sun and create and turn it into cool air. And then Dr. Kocha says, the story of the transformation of Israel, which was originally a desert area, can help us in transforming East Africa that always suffers from drought and lack of water. I believe that the developed countries of the world can help with finances and technology. Definitely. there is technology. I don't know if Mike Arthur's still listening, but even in agriculture, there are some methods in agriculture that save water, like a drip system, drip irrigation, or mulch. You have to mulch around your crops, and that keeps the moisture in the soil so you don't have to use as much water. Go ahead, Mike.
Yes, I'm right there. I'm listening. Yeah, well, there are a few ways to conserve or save on water, like you said. Water should be used in the appropriate manner. And when dealing with agriculture, I mean, the best thing to do is conserve on your water in a sense that you use the appropriate irrigation technique. So where necessary, you apply the drip system, the sprinkler, or whatever is necessary. You don't just pour water or use water as if you know there's no tomorrow. So the water should be used in an appropriate manner. Especially the drip system is one of the best they have, because the water goes exactly where it is needed by the root only. Because for the sprinkler, when that system is on, the water goes everywhere, and that's a waste of water. However, for the drip system, it goes only by the root, one drop at a time, one drop. So that means the water is being used appropriately.
Is that affordable where you live?
Yes, it is affordable. It is. Yes, yes. I mean, the initial cost to set up might be somewhat expensive, but after that, everything else is smooth. Very, very easy.
All right, let's move on. Decent work and economic growth. Any thoughts? Why do you think I put this picture up?
Let me start. I think it's a big part of the human right. I can give the example of my country. In Haiti, more than a half of the population live as less than, I can say, $2 a day for their life. It's a very bad situation. We have to construct a decent world, a sustainable community in Haiti. We have to work on this goal to maintain families to have a decent work and economic growth. It's a big part, I can say the main part of the human right.
Now, what am I trying to put in this picture when you see the workers embracing each other? What's the message there?
I can see respect, equity, and progress together. They want to work together with respect and equity.
Any other thoughts?
Like a teamwork, which can be more productive.
Any other thoughts? I still don't hear.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah, I can see. This is like an industrial work. Oh, hello.
We can hear you.
Hello.
Hello,
Can you hear me?
Yes,
I can see. It's like an industrial environment or in engineering environment, I can say, I think this is calling for better teamwork. Decent work means they are like wearing a PPE. This we call protective equipment, people protective equipment. So you need to take care of the people while working in a project or in the work area. You need to take care of them, and also these people, they are working in I can say they are more connected to each other, because when they aligned together, we believe they will meet the organization goals easily. As you can see, they're helping each other, holding each other, and also taking care of each other. So
Okay.
this is all about taking care of people. In other words, the organization must take care
And Dr.
of the people
Okocha says,
involved in it.
I see solidarity and teamwork. These people are not ashamed of the work they are doing. So talking about the picture. But I'm going to tell you from my perspective what this is about. Around the world, workers are being exploited by big companies coming in looking for cheap labor. Like even in Haiti, $2 a day. So the workers have to come together and form a power. That's going to be the transformative process to get decent work, is the workers have to come together and form and get power and then change the system. You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, sure.
You know, it's like forming unions, forming collective bargaining. Labor has a voice, labor has a power, and it's being exploited, it's being fragmented. Like in China, when they have all these little factories in China, and they're paying people very, very little. This was like 15, 20 years ago. And outside on the gates of the factory, when people would walk in, they'd hire maybe six really strong guys to look at the people walking in and say, you know, if anybody creates problems here, we're coming after you. So there was this suppression of the workers. Say, if you want to work here, take the wages. Don't complain about the wages. And so the business had to hire thugs, strong men, to hold down any collective bargaining, any collective unions of the workers. So the workers weren't able to get decent wages. They just had to accept the job and work 18 hours a day, sometimes, right? 18 hours a day in terrible conditions, but they had no other choice. And their power was being suppressed. And so there's a lot of exploitation of labor around the world. And at some point in time, labor has to come together. People have to come together and say, look, we're either going to form our own cooperatives and we're going to be the owners, or we're going to demand better wages and better conditions. And that's really going to be the only way to transform this into the future, because if the rich keep the power, they're not going to change the system. The workers have to really develop their own power and get included into that economic political system. Any thoughts on that?
But sorry, I have a negative view. Also have a negative view regarding the health context with the respect of social distancing. What do you think about?
You mean as far as social distancing and work?
Yes, I think.
Well, I think eventually this virus, this pandemic, is just going to go around the world, and it's not going to stop. It's looking to get everybody sick at some point in time. That's a virus. All the virus wants to do is get people sick and use their bodies to create more virus. That's all it wants to do. And so it's going to constantly look for more bodies. It's now just another virus in the world that we got to deal with somehow. People are saying, more people are dying from heart disease or from smoking. What are we doing? Are we reacting to heart disease by shutting down certain fast food restaurants to make people eat better? At what point are we really going to change the world to make it healthier? And if you look at where this virus came from in China, and you look at the history of Shenzhen, like there's this, let's say that back in the early 80s, there was this little bay in China, with a little fishing village of maybe 100 to 1,000 people, and this little fishing village on a bay. And within 15, 20 years, you had a city of like 6 million people. They built a huge city within like 10 to 20 years with highways and skyscrapers and 6 million people. Whereas just a few years before, it was just a little fishing village with a few little boats. And then all of a sudden, boom, 6 million people in a city. Where did those people come from? They came from the western part of China in the rural area, and they didn't have the habits of cleanliness. Coming from the western part of China, they had outhouses. They didn't have like running water. They'd learned to live with trash. So when they came to the big city, they had all this trash building up in these poor living conditions because people just came to work, and they gave them these terrible places to live with 50 people sharing one bathroom. And that's the way the workers had to live. And then working 18 hours a day, it created a lot of bad hygiene in the city there. In different parts of China, the hygiene was really a bad problem. The trash, bad water, conditions for disease was building. You had animals in certain parts running around the city. And you had these conditions that were just perfect to create these really bad diseases. So over the last 20, 30 years, we've seen a couple of diseases come from China, from these areas where the rural people came in millions. And they didn't have the infrastructure built up quite yet to handle millions of people who didn't have the habits of cleanliness and hygiene that you need in a big city. Otherwise, these viruses are going to build really fast and just get crazy. And that's what we've seen. And that's not sustainable. So when we look at, sustainable economic growth, China went so fast, and so many people moved into these big cities thinking economic growth. Let's do it fast. We can build a city within a few years. Just China used as much concrete. China used twice as much concrete in like 10 years that the United States has used in its whole history. It was like insane. All of the concrete that the United States has used in its whole history, China doubled that within just like a decade. They used twice as much concrete, building skyscrapers and roads, and their infrastructure just went crazy, but they did it so fast. One of the consequences was creating conditions that would create disease, and that's what we've seen. So in one sense, it's great to create work and economic growth, but on the other hand, it's created diseases that are now really, really adversely affecting the world. So it wasn't completely thought through as a sustainable process. So decent work and economic growth is another really important part of this puzzle of trying to get the world. Yeah, we need work, we need economic growth, but if we don't do it right, we're going to create more problems. Any thoughts? Anybody want to say anything more about this? Okay, let's move on. Industry, innovation, infrastructure. We're kind of just talking about that. This is, you have to build your infrastructure carefully, but you got to do it. Okay. Reduced inequalities. This goes into that political corruption you were talking about before.
Also, like in the political situation, as well as the inequality in the communities, where sometimes the majorities are controlling and the minorities are they are discriminated, and they have less participation in the political life and the economical life. So these kind of things that really minorities in my country are suffering from, and that they have been like demanding for their rights to have better participation in the life. And there are really so many problems that the minorities are suffering here in Iraq, like big areas where there was like a mass demographic change, taking the lands of minorities by majorities, changing the whole demographic situation. And this all belongs to, like, it was due to the inequality, because majorities were taking control, and the violence practiced against minority led to that. The minorities were eliminated and went out of the country due to that, and they went out to seek for better life in abroad, like in Europe or in USA, where like human rights are promoted there and implemented properly. This also comes under that inequality between the genders, like as we said before, like the women and men. So all these kind of things, like we need to work on that to promote better sustainable goal regarding this goal number 10, so that we will have like to have better projects on that regarding the human rights. It's also about like educating people on that. For example, in my country, like as I said, like the concept of human rights is not known to them. So they don't know their rights, they don't know their obligations. So when we promote this kind of education to them, it's like you are teaching them that you have rights you can demand for, and also you have obligations. So this respect between each other would reduce this inequality, according to my opinion.
Any other thoughts, opinions?
For me, I think it's the number 10 is relatively closer than the last one, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. We have to think about access or services. We have to think about the development. We have to think about the education of people, the strong institution, the quality of services. If we want to reduce inequalities, And as said my colleague Sarah, we can promote the majority, they having access to justice, to have the best quality of justice as the minority. And in my country, we have a big problem about inequality because a large part of the population live in poverty, and a minority take the economy, justice, institution, and all. If we want to work to maintain a sustainable community, it's very important to work on the goal 10 to reduce inequality and give justice to the minority and the majority.
Well, Coach, he writes, the methods used to create the various development plans for most African states are obviously faulty and not working, going by the huge gaps we see in terms of development between the urban and rural areas, and most times between different regions, especially those of the rulers and the ruled. And there is a need to set up a system for reorienting, teaching political leaders to care for and truly love the people they govern. And Mike Arthur says they hardly ever care about the citizens. They're all about themselves. It's so true. You know, it's like we're seeing all the diseases.
It's about.
Go ahead, Zachariah.
Maybe, yeah, I can see also, especially for corruption. When we speak about corruption, it might also contribute to this reduced inequality. Because one strong person, you can see over there how possible outweigh the other, many of them on the other side. The only possible scenario I can see here is corruption also. So if corruption is being fought with honest people, example leaders, they promote this. Example in our country, our President, Honorable John Pombe Magufuli, is now well known for balancing this, what we call equality between the rich and the poor. He fought a lot in contracts, example in the mining. He confronted Barrick PLC. Barrick is a company from UK. They used to exploit gold, and they were not paying anything. They declare they get loss every time. But for the first time, our president challenged them. It was a big discussion. And now laws have been changed. Mining companies, they are paying. And now the company is doing massive projects because of the money we are getting from the mining, example, because we are rich in resources. We have gold, we have Tanzanite, if you have been ahead of it, found only in Tanzania, the whole world, but we are not getting anything. We have diamond, we are not getting anything. But only a single person, Mr. President, the current, he has changed the entire pages now. So we are getting a lot, and we are building infrastructure, roads, we are building hospitals to almost every district, even ward level. We have hospitals now. People have access to hospital, health cares. We have this water, and I think it was go number 2 or number 3 or something with water. We have rural water projects. We are sending water to the rural, simply because Mr. President managed to control this money that were being taken from our country, something like this. So reduced inequalities is very powerful, especially when you have leaders that have this good vision. So whatever money is getting is integrating to sustaining our communities. I can see people now, they get good roads, they get water, they get electricity from the villages. Example for electricity, we have 12,000 villages in our country. Now 9,000 electrified just in 5 years. This is a huge improvement. So when I see this illustration here, just one person can change. One person can change with a good will. So we are in support with our country president, is doing a lot. So when we do better in case of balancing quality, especially for rich and poor. Rich, do your business, but pay what you're supposed to pay. If it is tax, you pay tax. But people, they are running, they are not paying tax. So creating a lot of problems on the other side. But this tax is going to build this infrastructure, which help many people now. When people are helped, we create a peaceful environment in that area or in the country for this case. So you see, goal number 10 is very powerful, need visionary leaders to sit in a 3D, I can say. So if we manage this, I can tell you the world will change, especially Africa and the developing countries. This is big problem, big problem. Just one single leader outweigh the rights of millions of people in his country. Because in Africa, we don't need to suffer a lot. We have plenty of rivers that can generate electricity for the entire Africa and even sell outside Africa. But we are not doing it because of corruption, this inequality. So it's I believe, I think as days are coming up, we are getting more knowledgeable about these goals, inequalities, and it will be reduced, and the UN goal 100% will be achieved, I believe, because of education. People are being educated, they know now. Because of technology advancement that is coming in, it's also helping us. And the other part, which is the West part of Africa, is a political part, because our politics also are not very good. But with what the examples we see from our president of Tanzania, I think the other presidents will see the way, and together we'll move forward and they will catch up. Or in other words, we'll move out of this problem that we are being trapped in, reduced inequality. Thank you, Doctor.
You know, as we go through these goals, it's like we're laying bare all the dirty laundry of the world. You know what I mean? It's like
sorry?
It's, as we're going through these goals, we can see
Yes.
all the problems that exist in the world.
Exactly. We see where we are being trapped. And then we need to work on them, 100%.
You know, what do you do? Do you get angry? You know, do you get angry? How do you respond to this?
When you get angry,
okay,
normally
Mike has to go. It's been informative. We should probably wrap up here. We're getting to around 2 hours. Mike, do you have like 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes? He may have already left.
All right.
Okay.
No, I'm still here. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Let's go ahead and get through these. We got to give Karen a chance to talk about this one. But we're going to try and run through the rest of these. That's a matter of time now. Do you have some things to say, Karen?
Yes, I talk about we have to make the community engaged, and to have the sustainable cities and community, it's a couple of action of government and community supported by the partnership. I think, but we have to make accent on the citizen engagement. We have to keep them motivated and involved in the action if we want to have a sustainable community.
Okay. Then we got responsible consumption and production. That's a big one. We're not going to talk about the rest of these. Climate. This is a generational thing. Everybody's got to do their part. Life below the water. They're like looking up, they're going, what are you guys doing up there? Life on the land. They need a place to live. They need forests, they need trees. They need flowers. They need their forests. And then peace,
Yes,
justice.
regarding the climate change, we have to work on those goals, like climate action, life below water, life on land. They are very important.
Peace and justice. People understanding each other, being able to work things through, forming alliances.
Let me add something about the peace, justice, and strong institution. When we make action into the communities or around the world, if we want to keep them sustainable, we have to keep to make the government to work to strengthen the government, make them engaged. As I said, for the community, it's very important if for the long-term action to have the engagement, the application of the government, and they have to survey about the application of the right justice and as we said, we talk about it's not only the injustice, but to keep the government very implicated in all the institutions to make them active in services and right. And it's like a machine. If we don't have the machine in action, we cannot think about a long-term action.
Any other thoughts? You're muted.
Sorry, I was disconnected for a while because of the internet, and now I'm back. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. So I was talking about through our projects, we are also trying to bring the society, the Iraqi society together. So we are implementing some projects that they are bringing the people from different religious and ethnic backgrounds, bringing them together in projects that to promote diversity, to promote social cohesion, and to promote the peace, I mean, among them. So this is an important issue as well. Many NGOs actually are working in Iraq on this concept, which is very important. And also, like about justice. Justice is it's a work of a government. The system of justice must be very it's an important system, and it must be very working properly. In our countries, like in many other countries, in the developed countries, are not working equally or working properly. They are not implementing justice properly. For example, like those who returned, the girls who returned from the hands of ISIS, they didn't get justice. The criminals were not brought to justice, and this is hurting them even more. Despite of that, they came with the heart broken and with very bad psychological and mental problems. They didn't get the justice. They didn't see the criminals brought to justice or being judged for that. And this is another issue which can build a sustainable community and countries. This is needed in our country a lot. Thank you.
And partnerships. People working together, using resources, political resources, financial resources, working together, get these things done. Okay, so we'll just do a quick wrap up here, is that all of this is important as far as education, because yeah, we all have our jobs, but it's important to keep a vision of where we're going in life as a community, as a global community, to make life better. I definitely want to thank you all for showing up, but now is the time to do the pledge. It's an AIU pledge for these goals. So you can unmute your mics, and Dr. Okocha, you'll have to just write in chat. So unmute your mics. And so we can do this. Now you can raise your hand, right hand or left hand, or both. You can raise your heart. You can raise your mind, whatever you want to raise as far as a pledge. Now is the time. Raise your consciousness, raise your heart, and to take this AIU pledge. Say, I agree to the AIU pledge.
I agree to the AIU pledge
To uphold human rights.
To uphold human rights.
Uphold human rights.
To
commit to the UNESCO goals.
To commit to the UNESCO goals.
UNESCO goals.
For a sustainable world.
For a sustainable world.
For sustainable world.
In every opportunity.
In every opportunity.
In every opportunity.
That's it. Just to commit to the goals and to uphold them. Thank you all so much for your time here.
Yes, engage.
It was, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lambert.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
See
Dr.
you
Lambert.
soon.
Thank you all.
See you.
You've all gone into my heart, and we've all, I think, gone into each other's hearts. All right. Any more questions about the graduation ceremony or anything?
When we receive the link?
Oh, to the graduation, to the virtual graduation?
Sure.
I think we have already received it.
We can't wait to see.
Let me see if I can find that. Do you see here? See that live stream? Video, message, list of alumni. This website is AIUvirtualgraduation.org. Can you see that?
Yes.
You should be able to get into the live stream through here.
Okay.
I'm going to click on live stream and see what happens. This is going to take you to YouTube, and it's going to be the live stream on YouTube. But isn't there a link to actually join the ceremony? I don't know. Let me write in chat. Let me write in chat. Where is it? I can write in chat here. Where is it? There it is. My my email. So if you don't have the link to get into the virtual graduation, write me an email and I'll have it tomorrow. Because I'm not sure what it is actually.
We have different tomorrows here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I think that's it, everybody. Any more questions?
No.
Thank you so much. It's just, I'm just going to send you, it's the moment of like silent emotion so you can feel.
Muchas gracias.
Yes.
Thank to you, Dr. Lambert, and thank to all the AIU staff. Thank you.
Big social distancing hug. Far apart. Okay, we're done here, everybody. See you in the graduation, and congratulations. This is a big thing.
Thank you.